For centuries, tales of mysterious ape-like creatures spread across Africa. These stories spoke of enormous, human-like beings living deep in the forests. To outsiders, these accounts sounded like myths or exaggerated folklore. What people didn't realize was that they were hearing about real animals, gorillas. In ancient times, reports of strange, hairy creatures reached Europe. The Carthaginian explorer Hanno the Navigator, around 500 BC, described encountering wild men and women on the West African coast. He called them gorillae, though what he saw might not have been gorillas as we know them today. Still, this marked one of the first mentions of these mysterious creatures in Western literature. Centuries later, European explorers continued to hear similar stories, but they dismissed them as legends. To them, the idea of a giant ape roaming the jungles seemed impossible. After all, no one in Europe had ever seen anything like it. These stories became part of the growing list of cryptids, creatures whose existence was unproven, like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. It wasn't until the 19th century that the mystery began to unravel. In 1847, Thomas Savage, an American missionary and naturalist, was shown a skull from what locals called a pongo. Savage studied the skull and realized it didn't belong to any known species. He published his findings, officially describing the western gorilla species. But even with scientific documentation, gorillas remained elusive. Few people had seen them alive, and many still doubted their existence. The first live western gorilla wasn't observed by outsiders until the 1850s. These animals were so unlike anything most people had ever seen that they seemed more like monsters than actual creatures. In the late 19th century, explorers like Paul du Chaillu ventured into Central Africa and brought back detailed descriptions, drawings, and even gorilla specimens. His accounts were vivid, describing dramatic confrontations with aggressive apes. While these stories captured the public's imagination, they also reinforced the idea of gorillas as fearsome and mysterious beings. By the early 20th century, gorillas were no longer considered cryptids. Zoologists had thoroughly documented them, and they became a symbol of the exotic and untamed wilderness. Yet, their mysterious past as hidden creatures lingers in our imagination. Today, gorillas are among the most studied primates on the planet. Conservationists fight to protect them from habitat loss and poaching, reminding us that what was once thought of as a myth is a very real and very vulnerable part of our natural world. So next time you see a picture of a gorilla, remember, there was a time when these incredible animals were considered just another wild story.